My dear students, welcome back in our lesson. Here we have just described generally the organs for gaseous exchange in mammals, especially human beings, that are the lungs. Now, what is the structure? What is the structure of the lung? The internal structure of the lung. Well, solely the function of the lung is that it is an organ for gaseous exchange. It is a site where gaseous exchange takes place. These gases that are exchanged within the lungs are trapped from outside, and the conduits or the structures or the pipes that take in the gases, we have either gases being taken in by means of the buccal cavity or by means of the nose holes. Our noses take in or draw oxygen from outside into our bodies. And this oxygen, these gases that is drawn from outside, taken in, is shunted into the pipe, into the structure. This is called a trachea. Trachea, or call it a windpipe. And this trachea is just found in front of the esophagus. It is a tube or a pipe that is made up of the C-shaped cartilages. There are C-shaped cartilages which prevent it from collapsing during inspiration when air is drawn in. So they are structural components, or they are parts or structures that determine the architectural makeup of the trachea itself. Now, this trachea, well, as it goes down before entering into the lung lobe, this trachea, we have a trachea here, this branches into two bronchi. One being a bronchus, two bronchi. Each of these two bronchi enter the lung lobe. Each of these enters the lung lobe. Now, within the lung, the bronchi or bronchus subdivides to form bronchioles. It subdivides to form bronchioles, each of which divides again to form alveolar tube or alveolar duct. At the end of each alveolar duct, there is what we call an alveolus or alveolar sac, or we call it an alveolus, meaning that if at all we have this part representing maybe a trachea. The trachea divides to form a bronchus. This bronchus will further subdivide to form a bronchiole. And this bronchiole will divide further to form an alveolar sac. Alveolar duct, sorry. This is an alveolar duct. At the end of this alveolar duct is where we have an alveolus or alveolar sac. A detailed diagram of this that I have just described here. If you see, you visit biological science, by Taylor, page 283. Here is where detailed diagram as well as the description of all what I have given will be found. I have said that at the end of the tubular system, there is an alveolus, or simply an alveolar sac. And basically, this is the one which forms, it is a functional unit. It is the functional unit of the lung. When we talk of the lung, a site for gaseous exchange, we are actually talking of the alveolus. It is this part in where gaseous exchange takes place. Now, let us look at the structure of an alveolus and its role. Structure and the role alveolus. Well, alveolus, the alveolus, this is simply an air sac whose walls are made up of squamous. Its walls is made up of squamous epithelial tissue. Well, the inner surface has liquid or fluid called surfactant. But also, externally, this is surrounded by dense network of blood capillaries. Surrounded by a dense network of blood capillaries. Now, what is the role of the alveolus? Well, this alveolus has a number of roles that it is playing. It has a number of functions that it plays. The first one, that it is a site for gaseous exchange. It is a site for gaseous exchange. Now, we have here we have blood capillary. Here we have deoxygenated blood. Deoxygenated blood brought in by pulmonary artery. And here we have oxygenated blood taken by pulmonary vein. And therefore, from the alveolar sac, we have oxygen. This oxygen is diffusing into the blood, but again from the blood, we have carbon dioxide coming in. And automatically, this carbon dioxide will be pumped outside. But also, in a similar way, you have, this is a blood capillary. On this side, we have got alveolus. Here, from the alveolus, we have oxygen diffusing into the blood capillary and carbon dioxide taken out. Now, this process whereby the two gases are passing across the blood capillary and the alveolar walls, this is what we actually mean by gaseous exchange. So the first function is that it is a site for gaseous exchange. But secondly, that the alveoli increase the surface area of the lungs. To increase the surface area of the lung. Surface area of the lungs. But thirdly, apart from increasing the surface area of the lung, that they facilitate easy expansion and recoiling of the lungs because they contain elastic collagen fibers. To facilitate easy expansion and recoiling of the lungs due to presence of elastic collagen fibers. To facilitate easy expansion and the recoiling of the lungs because of the presence of elastic collagen fibers. But also, the fourth function is that there are spatial alveolar cells. There are spatial cells in the alveolar walls. These normally produce a chemical substance called surfactant. They produce a chemical substance called surfactant. Now, the surfactant has a number of roles. The first one is that it lowers surface tension of the fluid within the alveoli, to lower the surface tension of the fluid in the alveolus. In so doing, it reduces the effort needed to breathe in and inflate the lungs, lowering surface tension of the fluid in the alveolar sac. And in so doing, it reduces the effort needed, the effort that should be applied when one is breathing in and inflating the lungs. But also, this surfactant, it speeds up the rate of transportation of respiratory gases, I mean carbon dioxide and oxygen. Apart from increasing the rate or the speed with which these gases have to be transported, but it is also acting as an antiseptic agent where it kills some bacteria that happen to reach the lungs. It is important to remember that the production of surfactant, especially during pregnancy, increases as the fetus is growing. So you will find that in the premature babies, the amount of surfactant present is very, very small. And due to insufficient surfactant, these infants develop a clinical condition called distress respiratory syndrome or respiratory distress syndrome, in where breathing process becomes difficult. And this is explaining why. This is one of the reasons that leads, why the premature babies die early in their developmental stages, because of difficulties in breathing as a result of insufficient production of surfactant. We have said that the surfactant lowers surface tension of the fluid in the alveoli, thereby reducing the effort needed to breathe in and inflate the lungs. So in these premature babies, breathing becomes difficult as a result of insufficient production of surfactant. Here, so we're looking at the transportation of respiratory gases. And the gases that we are going to discuss here are two. That is oxygen and carbon dioxide. Now, to start with, look at the carriage of oxygen. Well, my dear student, the red blood cell contains a pigment called hemoglobin. It is this hemoglobin that is responsible for transportation of oxygen. It is a conjugated protein that is made up of a pure protein component called globin and a non-protein prosthetic group. This is called iron. This is an iron-containing prosthetic group, non-protein group of a protein. And hemoglobin has 4 chains, and therefore it has similarly 4 prosthetic groups. And it is this iron-containing prosthetic group which is responsible for transportation of oxygen. However, the combination between oxygen and this group does not involve the oxidation of iron. It is purely a physical process. And since there are 4 prosthetic groups, and each involved in transportation of oxygen, automatically one hemoglobin molecule will transport 4 oxygen molecules. Now the carriage is simply that in areas where the partial pressure of oxygen is high, for example in the lungs, hemoglobin combines with 4 molecules of oxygen to form an intermediate compound. This is called the oxhemoglobin. As I have said, that the combination is not a chemical one. It is purely a physical process, and therefore the formed compound is very intermediate and liable to dissociate when need be. That is areas where the partial pressure of oxygen is high, for example in the lungs, where this oxygen is transported into areas where it has to be utilized. In areas where the partial pressure of oxygen is low, and therefore the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is high, this oxhemoglobin dissociates. So we have oxhemoglobin dissociating due to the presence of carbon dioxide to form another, and the 4 oxygen molecules are released. The formed compound here is called carb-amino hemoglobin. Carb-amino hemoglobin. As I have said, that in areas where the partial pressure of oxygen is high, and therefore the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is high, the affinity of hemoglobin to oxygen becomes also high. Therefore, hemoglobin will combine with oxygen to form oxhemoglobin. And in areas where the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is high, and therefore the partial pressure of oxygen is low, for example in the muscles, the affinity of hemoglobin to oxygen becomes low, and therefore its affinity to carbon dioxide becomes high. And therefore this hemoglobin will combine with the carbon dioxide to form carb-amino hemoglobin, and the oxygen will be released. My dear students, we have come to an end of our session for today. We have seen the meaning of gaseous exchange, the respiratory surfaces, examples of the structures that are used for gaseous exchange, their general characteristics. Gaseous exchange in mammals, the structure of the mammalian lungs, structure of the alveolus, and its role. And now we have come to conclude our lesson for today with transportation of oxygen. For questions, queries, and others of that nature, please send us an SMS or a WhatsApp SMS, or you can record your voice note and send it to us, or you can again record your video and send us a video call through our Our telephone number 0769 048594. 0769 048594. Your answers will be given either instantly or will be given afterwards. But also, you may follow up at our Instagram page, that is Elimika Darasa. But also, you can follow us in our YouTube channel, that is Elimika, where you will be required to like and subscribe. Take this opportunity to welcome you again in our next session, where we shall continue with transportation of respiratory gases. My name is Fortunatus Kiobia. Until then, bye-bye.